Hello, and welcome to the Bear Experiment Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Clavijo, and today I have a very, very special guest. Her name is Gladys Munoz. Welcome to the show, Gladys.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. I know Janet through a mutual girlfriend. She's a family member. And I actually, for the first time, really sat down and started speaking with you on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And I loved how into the spiritual realm of life you were so into, and your knowledge and your background being from Peru. And it was just so interesting just speaking with her, just because I'm trying to grow more into this world. Other world,
Yeah.
right? That we're all trying to live up to, right? We're just trying to keep this connection going to better ourselves, to just become better people. And she decided to come on the show. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited about this conversation.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about spirituality. And so let's set the prefaces here. So the origin of spirituality can be traced back to the earliest human civilizations as people sought to understand and connect with a higher power and purpose. Spirituality has played a significant role in human life, providing a sense of meaning, morality, and community. It has also been a driving force in the development of various religions, philosophies, and practices, which is what we were speaking about. So Gladys is Peruvian. You were born in Peru. You left Peru when you were 8 years old.
Yep.
So you remember Peru.
Yeah.
And Peru is has a lot of spiritual significance for a lot of people.
Yeah.
With the culture and the shamans and just a lot of people are or at least it's more public now from what I'm hearing, where there's retreats that people are now going to Peru.
Yeah, people go and travel there for like a week for like meditation. Like they go to Machu Picchu for also like spiritual connection. So yeah, it's just a hybrid of like indigenous, African, and Japanese and Chinese spirituality all around.
And you also lived in Guatemala, you were just telling me earlier today. So
Yeah, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Guatemala from 2016 to 2018. And I was part of I lived in a Mayan indigenous village where the predominant language was Quiche, which is an indigenous dialect. And so there was a lot of practices of indigeneity and shamanism that definitely took place throughout my experience there.
That's so interesting. And how long were you there?
I was there for 2.5 years.
Really? How long ago was this?
2016, so it was like 5-6 years.
That wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, wow. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about this. This is so interesting.
Yeah, of course. So I think when you leave as a kid to come to the States, you remember primary school, but as far as having that lived experience in Peru, I've kind of been more raised in the States. But in Guatemala, being in my late 20s, having a shaman, an indigenous Mayan man, like read my astrology, because you know how there's like the Western astrology, which is like Aries, like I'm an Aries, you're a Leo. In Mayan astrology, it's something else completely different. So I was part of like a shaman ceremony, which was about 3 to 4 hours, where you sat in this like Mayan ruins and you connected to the spirits of the world for blessings. And for that ceremony, it was more of a celebration to welcome us to be in Guatemala to support the communities that we're asked to support. So it was just like a welcoming event, but it was still very powerful. There was definitely like a chicken sacrifice, definitely, which I'm used to because I've seen them growing up in Peru. So it wasn't as...
Right, very, very Latin American, Caribbean type.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but it was also really wonderful to like get that firsthand connection to see what my Mayan astrology. So my Mayan astrology symbol, if I can put it correctly, is at, which means a red of connections, and which is really interesting. And it's so funny because I'm like a very much a connector, like just how I met with you on Christmas Day and we connected, and like I always like to build relationships because that's just the core of who I am. And it's just so like funny how I align more with that as opposed to like traditional religion. So yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's because you're you're open spiritually. I think that you are awakened more than most.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why you have this level of connection with maybe other awakened people, or other people that are trying to awaken. And we cross paths for a reason, because maybe you're here to elevate me and help me see things that I'm still not capable of surpassing, because I still have kind of like the blindfolds on, right? And listen, it's challenging. I'm really trying. I've been trying to do this now for several years, and it's difficult. It's very difficult to kind of like just put on the blindfolds and not care about what other people think, not care about judgment of others, not feel insecure. And really, when we can get to a level of spiritual practice where we're true with our authenticity, we really don't care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
And that's really, really, really hard to get to in society, right? So that's so interesting of your background. I didn't know that. That's I would love to do something like that. So now you live in Salem, Massachusetts, which is known as the Witches' City.
Yes, it is known for anybody who knows United States colonial history. Salem, Massachusetts is where the witch trials were, where this is in the 1700s, where the Pilgrims came and settled in Massachusetts. And in Salem, the city where I live now, is like these girls were like murdered because they were like witches. And so it's now become a haven of like Satanists, which is a religion. There's a Satanist temple there. There is like crystal shops, aura readings. It's a very it's a mecca for people, especially during Halloween, to come out and be spooky. So
you see a lot of activity around the Halloween, or just a very spiritual town in general.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
definitely.
Peru and then Salem, it's kind of like
so
you're being
funny.
guided to these types of atmospheres, right? Where they're just more inclined toward that spiritual realm. Do you practice anything, or do you go to any religious ceremonies in Salem since you live there? Are you a part of anything? Cultures?
As far as I think I'm more of an individualist like that. I think, for full disclosure, I don't identify with any religion, even though I was baptized in the Catholic faith. I'm a Reformed Catholic. I just feel that now I just practice in my own method, and for me, that's more liberating. I know that where I live, there's like LGBTQ friendly churches and quote unquote Unitarian churches that welcome all religions and faith, but I think for me, I just like being on my own with my thoughts and connecting to how I want to connect. I don't think organizations fit me because I think I'm just so different, and that's okay. But as far as like rituals, there is this crystal store that it's one of my favorite ones there. And they do have like for the new moon, they do like let's meet up a park and, like re-energize their crystals during the new moon, which I haven't done just because I'm
there's something about the energy of the moon that you're supposed to set them out at night, especially when it's a full moon.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about crystals. So I went in my spirit... in what I'm trying to spiritually awaken, right? In my process, I did go and I bought some crystals. I did go to a store. I'm really not feeling anything with them, but I have seen a lot of different little TikTok videos and just like different people on YouTube that they talk about, and one of them is that putting them outside with the energy of the moon when it's a full moon, leaving them out overnight with water, and you drink the water. Like there's so many different rituals that you can do with the energy of the moon so that you can so that it can help you awaken. So tell us, how does this work? How does this little dynamic with something from the earth? Right? How does that open up your spirituality?
Yeah, of course. So I can tell you from the Western approach of what I see in North America is that crystals are used for like healing purposes, for like relieving illnesses and stress. As someone who has a healthcare and science background, I disagree with that. I do think they're more for like energy and connection and protection approach. As far as curing diseases, I draw a hard line there, and that's okay. As far as my own crystals, I definitely have...
That's how you're looking at it from a scientific perspective
right.
as well.
And you can do both. And I think that's where people are like, well, you can't be for science and spirituality. You can do both. It's okay to be in that intersection. But for me, I use them more as a protection. So I have a black tourmaline, and that one is especially for Aries, where we extend, like you're a fire sign, so we use a lot of energy, and it's just so much, right? So that helps me, like when I meditate, I have that just to like recharge myself. And I also have it in an altar, an altar. So I have 2 altares in my home, just to like have that protection and that safe space.
So how does that work? I'm very interested in this because this is something that I've given some thought to. I mean, my space is very limited in my apartment.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we all need a little bit of protection. And whatever it is that's going to help you sleep at night, go for it, right?
Yep.
Whatever's going to help you just feel safer. It's such a scary world that we live in. And so I've read about that, right? You have an altar, you dedicate like a certain section.
Yeah. And it can be anywhere.
And how do you do that?
So for me, from the best advice I've gotten, you just put things that have a lot of deep connections to you. So the one in my living room is on top of like my cabinet, and it's like 2 dolls from Peru. So these indigenous dolls called quecos. So the queco dolls from the Indian culture are to bring you love, prosperity, wealth, and wellness. So I have those 2, and then I have some crystals, some money, some lentejas, because in Peru, lentejas are used for like food on the table, so they always have meals. So I just put things that
things of value.
Yep, and it's just there as a guidance and protection. And in my basement, I have these 2 other like goodies from Peru. They're 2 bulls because they signify protection and support and other crystals.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and I think you don't have for altares. We think of like these like, you know, images of deities and gods, and it's like
how they do it in the Hispanic culture, where you have un San Lázaro in the entrance of your living room.
And I don't.
It's a little creepy.
It is creepy.
You
so
know?
you can make your own altares how you see fit. I know for mine, I do every New Year. So on the 1st, I'm gonna cleanse it out and welcome the new energy and welcome that. And I also, like, you know those candles with the saints that you find at Sedano?
Yeah.
So I actually have one from
with the Virgin Mary, with Jesus.
Yeah, those.
You name it.
Yeah, I only have one candle from Jose Martin. I think that's his name. He's a saint from Peru. He's the first black priest and doctrine in the New Americas. This is like the 1700s, and he's like so well respected in Peru because he provided miracles. Is in the Catholic faith. But I do have a candle of him just because like. His moral, his story is that he brought together a cat, a rat, and a dog to be friends. And I'm like, also, you were a black man, you know, treated as a slave during the colonialism time. So I think, like, I'm like, I can just respect you. I don't know about the rest.
So, but are you maintaining an altar?
Yeah.
How do you energize it? How do you connect to it on a daily basis? Is it something that you just keep there, kind of like for you to look at, or do you actually practice a certain connection to it?
If anything, I look at it once a week and add little things. So I know in one of my sister-in-law, she's Romanian, and in one of their spiritual practices, you have money around your house laying around. So I have money in the altar as well. So if I have an extra quarter, I put it there. But do I look at it and pray at it? No, it's just there for protection and healing and support. Okay. But when I'm feeling like sad, I just look at it and it just makes me feel better.
It helps you.
Yeah.
So then let's dive in, because this is a good dive into the next question. We had a little outline here of everything that we were supposed to talk about, and we're already, like, I knew this was going to take place like this. I knew it. I knew this was going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Brujeria. Right?
Yes.
Because now we're talking about altars, and we're talking about spirits, and we're talking about Salem, Massachusetts, and witches and witchcraft. And brujeria is definitely something that's very associated with black magic, I think. People are very afraid of it. People think of it as, and people do it, especially in the Hispanic culture. Cuban cultures here in Miami, this is out of control. And you can go see un brujo that supposedly is going to put a spell on you and he can make you sick, or they have the voodoo dolls that they work with. You can do El Santo, where it's a process of a year, I think. I don't know, maybe you know a little bit more about this than I do. It's a process of a year. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars. And people do this that have no money, and they sacrifice the little bit that they have, where they have to dress in white with the collares.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, like the level of belief that they have, where they go to that extent. So brujeria, also known as witchcraft or sorcery, is
Yes.
a term used to describe various traditional practices and beliefs related to magic and spirituality. It is commonly associated with Latin American and Caribbean cultures, particularly those of indigenous or African roots. Brujeria encompasses a wide range of practices, including healing, divination, spellcasting, and the use of herbs and potions.
Yeah.
So some of the practices are spellcasting, divination, herbalism, spiritual entities, and protection and cleaning. So you have the altar. And brujeria, they have very significant altars.
Yeah, they do.
All over their house, in the entrance of their house, in their front yard. Like, they want people to know, this is what we practice. Don't mess with us. Believe in our beliefs or stay away from us. It really is that black and white, with a lot of, at least the Cuban culture here in Miami. I can only speak for
From your experience,
what
yeah.
I've seen in family members, you know? And I think that anything at that level of just people that become obsessed, right? That obsessiveness with any type of religion or spirituality. I don't think that anything good comes out of that long term, right? Because it gets to a point that you're just like so black and white in one religion, and you don't see everything else around you. And we're all individuals and different people. So what has been your association with brujeria and witchcraft, coming from Peru, Guatemala, and doing everything spiritually that you were able to do through your work, through your spiritual work?
Yeah, I definitely think that brujeria has always been stigmatized in Latin, Latino, Hispanic culture, just because there's a huge Christian Catholic presence in Latin America and the Caribbean, right? I know there's current trends with the young millennials and Gen Z to destigmatize brujeria and to use it more as a healing practice or a cleansing practice, right? So growing up, my mom, when I was, feeling under the weather and pills couldn't help, like she would pasar el huevo. So for those who do not know, you take an egg and you say a prayer and you pass it through your body, and then you crack the egg and then you toss out it outside your home. So definitely, like, having that was definitely like a first encounter of brujeria. And then when I was a teenager and visited Peru, same thing. I was feeling under the weather, and my mom got a newspaper. And I was like really sick, so I don't recall this, but she passed a newspaper all around my body. And then with my dad, she burned it, and she saw faces on it.
Really?
So she thinks that because of that trip, somebody gave me mal de ojo.
And so your mom is very spiritual.
My mom is very spiritual. I think you would really enjoy her on the show, by the way. But she speaks Spanish. She's a whole. I'm
trying. And listen, this is a bilingual podcast.
Okay, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, she would. Yeah,
I would love it.
Yeah. So the next time she comes down. But yeah, maybe that's where I get it from, and not my open-mindedness. But yeah, so that's the second encounter. And I think the other encounters have been me of more my own practice. So for example, like everybody does the sage with the house, right?
That's what I have here. I have sage, I have the incense.
Yeah.
I have a candle, just because candle in churches, I was raised Catholic, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just used to that, right? It's just kind of something that, like, I have to believe in something bigger and better than me in order to get me through all the bullshit that we have to go through in life.
Yeah.
But I do, there's something about when I burn sage, like I did it right before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
There's something
It was a
about
cleansing
it
aura.
that reminds me
Yeah.
of a cathedral, of a church. I don't know, it just reminds me of something good, of something holy, of
It's
something
peaceful.
spiritual, peaceful, right?
Yeah.
In my own head, obviously. There's
Yeah.
something about it.
I definitely also think that brujeria, the older that I've gotten, there's more like a healing aspect to it. So when medicine doesn't work, like for example, we know that if you have a bad tummy ache, toma un vaso de manzanilla, right? Because that has medicinal qualities. But if you look from that context of what brujeria is, that's considered brujeria. So it's like,
Really?
yeah, because if by the definition you shared, and for
It's an herb.
right, right. And if some people are very black and white, well, you shouldn't be using medicinal plants. That's not scientific. They actually have medicinal scientific properties. We know that manzanilla is actually good for your stomach, right? We know that, for example, and it works. We know that mint, the ancient Romans used to do it for bad stomach aches. You know, we know that mint has really good quality. So there's like all of this evidence there that backs it up with science. But as far as brujeria, I don't fuck with like bad brujeria. I think there are people who like those divinity black.
Do you believe in it?
I
do.
do.
Do you think that people
I think
that associate with that level of malice and spirituality can really hurt another individual?
I think so. I think in this world there's so much energy that we as humans have. Like, think about the electrons and the atoms that we have. Like, that's energy, right? So there are people in this world who do harm to others. Like, I always had this aunt, and I don't affiliate with some part of my family. This aunt and my dad and my mom, being spiritual, they would, every time she would come visit, they would have a bucket, like unas flores, right? And every time she would visit, the flowers would die.
Right.
And when my dad like would toss them out because she had such bad energy.
So did they always have the flowers, or did they specifically put the flowers?
They specifically, yeah.
Knew that the flowers wouldn't take that energy. Well, they say the same thing happens with, for example, like animals, right? Like you get sick or somebody does something to you, an animal will take it in just because they're that much closer to that spiritual realm than we are, and they're there as a protector for us.
I agree with that. I think in all my encounters in life, even with animals, like especially kids too, like the ones that are like under 5, they also are a vessel to the energy world.
Right, because it takes like for that veil to kind of like come on.
Yeah.
It's kind of right. It's like at the age of 5.
Yeah.
Right? Like 4 or 5.
Yeah. I was doing some readings online, and I'm sure this is like credible or whoever wants to believe. And I've heard that if you ask a kid who's under 5, 3 to 5, like, where were you in this past life? They would tell you.
They could tell you.
They were. And I tried to ask my niece, but she didn't give me much information. And if my brother's seeing this, I'm so sorry, but it is what it is. I'm curious. But
don't say names.
Yeah. But my niece has actually seen faces before in her bedroom. And I was like, what faces do you see in your bedroom? And she's like, they're scary and I'm scared. And for the longest time, she was afraid to sleep in her room. But then as she got older now, she's like, oh, I don't see anything, because she's been conditioned to this world. So.
Right. It's the programming that we all receive.
Yeah.
You know, in the education system, you know, that they start as, we're supposed to be free spirits, right? And learning and going back to herbalism, you know, now everything is a pill that we take. When we really don't need to do that, like the shamans and ancient cultures, anybody that was sick, they were healed through the properties of the earth and the trees and the water and just everything that the earth provided.
Yeah.
And how is it that now we're sicker than ever, yet we have all these pills that everybody's addicted to, because now it's also like everything is a stigma now. You know, there's labeling for everything, but then why don't we label people that are taking anxiety medication on a daily basis, or antidepressants, you know? There has to be a way that we can get around that.
Yeah.
And it's just the society that we live in, right?
Yeah.
Everything is just big pharma, and everybody's just becoming, you know, bigger millionaires, and they're just, you know, killing us little by little, right?
Yeah.
So I do value ancient cultures, and just like, you know, some of these indigenous cultures that still exist today. I think that they mentally are much more far advanced than we are on a spiritual level, just with the way that they operate. You know, if you look at their lifespans, they're living to 100, over 100 years old, and we're dying off at 70, 75 years old, where we are having, you know, better economic, lifestyles.
Yeah.
So what's really more efficient at this point, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are they teaching us? Where are they guiding us with all this?
I think that a couple things from that. I definitely think that within indigenous folks, wherever they may be in the world, there is a huge disparity in health as well as economic balance, right? Especially in North America. But to your point, like I think that a lot of us have forgotten to practice certain traditions, holistic traditions, right? I think about the example of like Japan, right? So part of my ancestry is Japanese.
Right.
In Japan, you know, there's all these practice in different Shinto, Buddhism, faith-based practices. You have multiple faith. Don't quote me on this, but there's like certain faiths associated with that, and older adults do live longer or something. They practice some different ways of spirituality, but as
there's a series on Netflix. It's called The Blue Zones. Have you
yes,
seen that?
yes, I've seen that.
And
Right.
one of them is in Okinawa.
Yep, and there's a bunch of older adults there,
But a lot of it is also just the dynamic that they experience on a daily basis. They're very active.
they're active. Their food is not garbage like
Right.
McDonald's
They're planting
everywhere.
They're planting their own foods. They're eating from their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
They're going up and down hills. They're not sitting on chairs. They're sitting on the
Yeah.
ground. And they're standing up. And that's what's allowing them to live healthier lifestyles. We're planted on the couch all day watching television and eating McDonald's.
Yeah.
you
So
know?
it goes back to your point of like, would this be considered brujeria? Because, you know, they're reconnecting with what they know. That's their day-to-day lives, right? And from an outsider perspective, it's like, well, from a systemic point of view, they have all these resources that makes them age longer. True, but maybe that's also how the way they view life, too, on a day-to-day.
Right.
Like Japanese...
Their mental capabilities at that point.
And also how they see the world too. Like I know in Japanese culture, there's more uniformity and traditionalism. Like for example, if like, a new perspective. So if a new neighbor, like if we were living in Japan, and if I was your neighbor and moved in, I would like go to your home and be like, "Hi, I'm your new neighbor. This is some mandarina. It's nice to meet you."
Right.
Do you do that in Miami? And
Never.
never.
You're judging them from the moment they move in. What's wrong with them? They probably do drugs. They're probably delinquents. What's going on?
Yeah, but it goes back to like the basis of like what is spirituality, and I think for a lot of people they see it as a higher power, but I think for me it's also how you interact it day to day too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about the crystals, the connection to the earth, how it helps us.
Yeah.
We talked about the shaman already, but I want to dive a little bit more into ayahuasca.
Yes, go for it.
So ayahuasca is something that, again, in my own personal spiritual awakening, that I've just begun. Because sometimes I think I'm more ahead than I want to be, and then I'm reminded that I am nowhere near where I think I am mentally or spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the way that life smacks me in the face,
Mhm.
and I'm still not able to cope with the smackdowns, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when you reach that level, you just know how to just cope with it based on perspective and just controlling your emotions, right? So ayahuasca is something that is brought up a lot, where different people have experienced this phenomenon, whatever you want to call it. It's an herb, right? That basically you drink it, but you're basically tripping. It's like tripping on acid,
Yeah.
right?
From what I've heard, I have not done ayahuasca primarily because I'm hesitant towards it, because I feel like I would do that once I try to become a parent. So I don't have children, but I think I would need that experience. I don't know why, it's just my own beliefs. But I had a friend who actually went to Peru and did ayahuasca at a shaman retreat, and he's done it twice. And his experiences were very different, and he had it was a powerful experience for him to heal from traumatic events in his childhood.
Did it help him?
It did help him. He's now very successful, and he's like, he got what he got out of it. I think people see as a ayahuasca, it is considered a drug, right? But it's still used for day-to-day practices. Like the Incans and pre-Incan Empire used that for the shamans, you know, the curanderos would use that to connect with the higher power, to tell them, oh, we should plant crops this year this way, you know. But it's a form of healing. I do think it's become more exploited recently, to be quite honest, because a lot of, you know, people go down to Peru and, you know, they just go to get what they want and they leave. But I think it's also important to learn about, like, where are you getting ayahuasca to, especially in these, like, isolated Amazonian pueblos in the Amazon River of Peru. and also acknowledge that land piece as well, because I think a lot of tourists go, get it done. Yes, it is a service, but also acknowledge where you're getting it from too.
You know, I was even like talking to a friend the other day about that. And they know a person that brings them the ayahuasca from Peru. I don't know how legit that is.
That sounds sketchy.
Correct. Correct. That's exactly what I said. Like, how the hell are they bringing it on the plane? That doesn't make any sense. So, and he's got a retreat going here in Miami Beach where people are going and, you know, they go to the beach and they start drinking it and they're having these like spiritual awakenings. And I'm just like, there's something. I'm not saying that it's not off doing it in Peru with a shaman in the middle of the Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's not off also, because I think that I'm very afraid to even try that.
Same.
But I would be that, like, I'd rather take my chances over there than over here. I know that sounds crazy, because at least over here we have, like, you know,
Healthcare and stuff.
doctors.
Yeah,
you know, there's a hospital right around the corner, and maybe over there I might die in the middle of the jungle. But, I've also, you know, heard different stories of people that have tried ayahuasca, and it's very important for you to be very clean internally, right? Like, no alcohol, no marijuana, no drugs of any nature.
Yeah.
Right? Anything that toxifies your body, because that will block the connection, the positive connection that you're supposed to have, and you can actually go on a very, very, very aggressively bad trip when you're doing that, and it can be a horrible experience. And then, you know, that they've gone back and they've done it, you know, a second and a third time, and when they truly were cleansed internally, food, water, like everything, all of the above, you know, once they were able to do it that way, then that way is when they really had the true connection to the spiritual realm, you know. And they did find it to be very helpful, you know, in answering certain questions with, you know, their past lives or traumatic experiences or just like emotions that they're having a difficult time coping with. There's certain triggers that we have, and we don't understand what happened, because you say to yourself, like, I have certain triggers, and I say, what? What has happened to me for me to have this trigger? Because I overall have had, I think, an okay life. Is it something that's stemming back from a previous life that I may have had, in a, you know, a former life that I experienced, and I'm still carrying that trauma because I haven't healed, I haven't learned that lesson? Is that the reason why I still have this trigger, and I just keep coming back, like they say, until you get the lesson and you learn the lesson? And supposedly, like, right, ayahuasca is supposed to answer all of those questions. So it's interesting because, you know, Peru is, like, you know, one of the countries that people are talking about it more openly, where they're experiencing these retreats, these spiritual retreats, and it's becoming like a cool thing, right? Celebrities are doing it.
Yeah.
You know? So when celebrities do it, then it's a cool thing. That's when you start questioning, is it still cool? Celebrities are doing it. This is messed up now, right?
I think that their ayahuasca is a healing experience, and then as you were talking, I thought about mushrooms or psilocybin.
That's the new one too. A lot of people are doing that one also.
Yeah, and I think for that on its own, I know that in the 70s, the U.S. Did a lot of like research studies on it, and it does have therapeutic effects at a lower dose rate. I know that there's clinic in the West Coast that do administer low doses to help trauma survivors. And that has been helpful, but I think as far as ayahuasca, it goes back to my earlier point of being very commercialized. Like, if you're that person that, you know,
celebrities start doing it, you're done.
Yeah, and, you know, to each of its own, but I also, like, back to my earlier point, like, if you're going to go have that wonderful experience because you need it, make sure you acknowledge where you're going, right? Like the shaman, like you're going to this remote part in the Amazon, right? Like, please, like, want to make sure where they're getting the sources, but also like connecting with Mother Earth too. But, you know, some people just go, oh, I did ayahuasca, I'm cool. But
they're doing it just to say that I did it. Like, I was in the Amazon in Peru and I did ayahuasca. They're just doing it to tell people like the whole story. They're not doing it for the true purpose. The true purpose of actually experiencing that.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I one day might do it before I become a parent, because I think that journey, it's so important, right? But that's just my own preference. I know that some of my family members have done it as well, and it has helped them with some things.
Is this something that lasts a long time, or is it
Like, how does ayahuasca work?
like when you drink it? Is it something that's like a short term?
It's short term,
or is it like you're tripping for like 12 hours?
So what I've heard from friends is like you go to the lodge, like you're sitting at like a hotel lodge in the Amazon, you check in, and I think there has to be some fasting or light eating, and then you drink this hot drink, and then it makes you vomit.
Right.
Or poop your pants or poop
Right.
for like the first
That's attractive.
for like the first 8 or something
So
hours.
It cleans you.
It cleans you.
No. Who cleans you after you poop on yourself and puke on yourself?
You have a shaman. So there's like the main shaman who's doing the ceremony, and then you have like guides next to you by the shaman.
So you're somewhat protected.
Yeah. So then they help you go to the bathroom. They help you barf. They help you there. And then once you're done with that phase, then like you start entering.
I'm just like uncomfortable.
Yeah. So I don't like vomiting, but I understand that that's part of like
vomiting. I'll take the vomiting. Pooping. That's a problem.
Yeah, but
you're pooping in front of somebody else.
But I mean, it's part of the experience, right? I think that's why most people go for like a week, because have to do some pre-work, and then I think by pre-work you just need to adjust to the time zone, or probably the food that's available, like and then you have the ceremony and the experience, and you might have time to debrief too, right? Like I had a friend that he did it, and he was there like a day or two extra after his ceremony, just because he wanted to process what he saw, and he saw some of his like animal guides that helped him heal with like some trauma with his mother. So like he wanted to journal that experience post. So
now, do you think that those are all stories that maybe we have in our head, and we're creating these stories just to create an illusion to help us? Or do you think that this is something that truly does happen?
I think it truly does happen. I think that because of how humanity is, and we're so blindfolded, and the go, like especially in the United States, it's a hamster wheel that you don't stop from productivity, working, etc. And when you're thrown into that environment, you're actually connecting with Mother Earth, like Pachamama, which is also known Quechua, which is the indigenous language of Peru. And you're connecting with Mother Earth to like have that experience, right? And there's some people who might listen to this and be like, I don't believe in that, and that's okay. And that's okay. And part of this conversation is also like, it's okay to explore that, or like want to know what it is, but also recognize that it's not a cure-all. It's there to support you. But for some people, it worked, right?
It's an answer question.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes you just need a question answered in order to put the whole story together that you can't understand. And maybe it's like just like one little thing that brings into your memory again, that just fixes an emotional trigger again that we constantly have, that causes issues for us, causes us to not have long-term relationships, or issues with work, whatever the case may be. But maybe that's like the one thing that's actually going to help you.
Yeah.
And I think that we should all be open to any type of help at that point, because
I agree.
We are all people. We are all human beings that are all defective. Everybody's defective. Everybody has issues. Everybody has pain. Everybody experiences insecurities and all of that fun stuff that nobody likes to talk about. However, we just hide it better. Some learn how to hide it better than others. And those are the ones that hide it the best, that look like their lives are all together. Those are the ones that are dying inside, right? Because they don't release it. Maybe those are the ones that we should get a retreat started. I just started a business. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I think it goes back to your earlier point too, of like just like suppressing all of your feelings, emotions, and what you interact with the world, and it's like, it's okay to let go and live your life. But I know for some other people, they probably have encountered current traumas, or are experiencing traumas, or have other things going on, and it's okay to take a step back and rechange what you want out of life, but it's up to the individual too. So
yeah, it's a personal decision, absolutely, and it's a very personal, very judged kind of dynamic that anybody can experience, because there's just a lot of very closed-minded people that are still, like you say, they have the veil on, and they don't want to see outside the veil, and they're very programmed, and anything outside of that is an issue. You're off, you're a witch, you're whatever it is that however they want to judge and insult you at that point. And everybody should be able to make their own personal decisions.
Yeah.
So to finalize
Yeah.
the podcast, and I think a general kind of question that every human being has, because we all have an expiration date, and based on common stories that we hear, people that have near-death experiences and actually cross over to the other side and come back for whatever that reason is. Whatever that reason is, whether it's because they still have a lesson to learn, they have a family member they have to take care of, whatever that reason is that God, source, universe sent you back from round two. Maybe you decided, listen, I'm not ready to go yet. As hard as that is, those lessons that I'm learning there where I'm getting my ass beat, I want to go back because I'm still not done. Okay? So why is it that we all kind of come back and kind of share the same experience where it's like, the tunnel and the bright light and a figure, and we felt the wings hug us, and it was just love, and everybody was telepathic, and you couldn't talk, but it's like I say it and I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Why does everybody say the same story with their experiences? Is it because that's what we hear all the time, and that's just what we're programmed to say because our subconscious already just comes back and says, yeah, the white light, the tunnel? Or is it really because there's something out there that really is the same for everybody, and we're coming back and we're saying it, we just don't want to believe it, we don't want to see it, we want to be blinded, we want to keep the veil on.
Yeah.
What happens when we die?
I think for me, I'm a big believer in reincarnation. So I think in my personal view, I think when you pass away, it's just like a place of where you're kind of asked, like, do you want to go back to like a different timeline, or how do you want to do, or you can find peace, right? I think that's how I see it for me. Do I believe the Catholic way where you go up to the gate and they judge you for your sins? No, because I feel like all of us are but I don't believe it that way. But I do believe in reincarnation, and I've actually have been looking into it, that for people who do believe, in reincarnation, you'll always have these strong affinities for certain things that are not normal. So I have a huge obsession with like French, like 1700s, like Marie Antoinette, Versailles. Like I love that, and I don't know why. And I also have this huge affinity for the 1920s, like the Great Gatsby era. So maybe in my past life, I lived in both decades,
Absolutely.
right?
I believe that.
And maybe I have been a man or a woman in the past, right? Because I do recognize that I have a lot more masculine energy, and then I have like female energy, but who knows what I have been in the past, and that's okay.
In the spiritual realm, we really don't have a sex, right?
No,
that's like
we
one
don't.
thing that we say. We're neutral. We have to come over here to start getting judged and start saying, okay, now we're female, now we're male, and feminine energy and masculine energy, and what's going on. But that's an interesting position to take, because why is it that there are some females that come in and they have all this masculine energy, and they have so much more masculine energy than any male, any macho man that you can actually see. Yet the female has more of that masculine energy. Where does that come from, right? Now we dive into like homosexuality and gays and lesbians, and is that really something to be frowned upon, or is that just something that from a spiritual perspective we don't have sexes?
I honestly think that there is no sex in the spiritual world. I think because of society and social constructs, we've been categorized to have genders and all of these things. But I think in the spiritual world, we just have energies, right? I think for my perspective, when it comes to reincarnation, like, it doesn't matter how you want to go. It's just like what you bring up to the next life. So I definitely think I was definitely like some duchess or like high-powered boss lady, because that
I can see that.
That leader, you definitely.
I can totally sense that energy. You're so much younger than I am.
I know, it's crazy.
And you're like calling the shots, without even calling the shots, you're calling the shots.
Yeah.
You may not realize that you're doing it, but I'm like, you have this very kind of like energetic, like boss babe kind of energy about you.
And the other thing I've learned from reincarnation is that you tend to be reincarnated with family members that you have not gone along in the past. past.
Different people.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I think for me and my current family dynamic, my parents and my brother, we're very different people, but we still make it work. I think with my brother over the years, I've gotten closer to him in some perspectives, but we're very different people. He took the most traditional route, whereas I took a non-traditional route, right? But it's so funny because sometimes I think about our sibling relationship, and I'm like, oh, maybe in the past we were enemies, and I was brought back to this lifetime to be like, how can I understand this human being and where he comes from? So
Yeah.
we're okay. It's just like sometimes those thoughts come up in my head too.
Well, exactly. That's exactly what I've always read also, is that every kind of like important family member, whether that may be a husband
Yeah.
or a child, that it's the same, spiritual entity coming in a different form. So I, for example, many, many years ago, went to see a reader, and my daughter must have been, she was a baby. She was a baby. She's now 14 years old. And I remember sitting with her. It was on the beach.
So Miami.
Yeah. But she was reading everything about me, and I really didn't share a lot of information. And one of the dynamics that I loved, whether it be true or not, listen, I love the story, was that, we lived in a European type country. She saw me as a child. Very wealthy parents. My daughter was my mother. In that life, she was married to my father, who was almost albino-like in his physical appearance, very white hair, blue eyes, very white, very pale-skinned, very wealthy. My mother kind of handled me like this little doll, where she had me dressed up in perfect bows, and just like that very kind of higher level society. And it's interesting because I want to be in tights and a tank top now. I don't want to dress up unless I absolutely have to, for professional reasons or whatever. This is how I feel comfortable. But my mother was she was very unhappy in her marriage. And that unhappiness, she kind of reflected back to me. And so I was like that little person that she just dove all her energy into. So it's interesting because my daughter and I really do have a nice relationship. I'd like to believe, she's a teenager, so she has her moments.
Yeah.
But we understand each other in a certain, we have this dynamic about each other where I've even told her, I'm like, sister girl, you need to chill out because I'm the parent here, not you. Because she thinks she's my mother. And you see how I am. I'm a strong personality.
I love it. It balances out.
But she's very strong also. She's a Capricorn.
Oh.
So we clash. We clash a lot. But like I said, there's some times where I'm like, why does this kid think that she's my mother? And then I digress back to that story.
That reading.
And I'm like, could it possibly be true where now we're now I'm the parent and she's the child.
Yeah.
But yeah, that we come back and it's like, your father could have been your husband in a past life, and now he's supposed to be your father because the lesson that you have to learn with him has to be different, obviously.
Yeah, you never know.
Friends, how is it that you meet certain friends and you have certain friendships where they're that much more valuable than a family member, a bloodline member?
I think that's me. I think because of my own journeys in life and my experiences, I think my friends tend to be closer than my family members. And I think that for me, as I've gotten older, I definitely have boundaries with certain family members, and that's okay. Yeah.
But I think that
happens. And that happens as you grow.
And, it's also, people change. What is it that they say? Every 7 years, 8 years, you're
evolving.
And not everybody evolves, right? Some people kind of stay stuck and they're in that stagnant energy because they don't want to grow. And that's why so many marriages fall apart, right? Because if I'm growing and you're not, what do we have in common moving forward?
That's so true. One of my friends from Peace Corps, she's actually a marriage family therapist. And when I was in Peace Corps in Guatemala in 2016, I was anti-marriage for the longest time.
Why?
So I talked to her about it, and she told me that because I haven't seen a marriage worked out, because my parents are divorced, my grandparents are divorced, she was like, maybe you've never seen it worked out, so what's wrong with your current relationship, who is now my spouse, but before was my boyfriend, right? So I'm like, I don't know, that's a good question. So I kind of have to do more of that digging and self-exploration to be like, why am I so scared of this?
But you know what? Marriage is just scary. I think marriage is scary as shit. Like, think about it. Like, you're actually meeting another person that comes from another family, another background, another country, possibly another religion. That's why they say try to marry somebody that you have like a lot of like common cultural, similarities with, because when you have to be next to the same person 24/7, you're coming home from work, you had a hell of a day at work, and this person is just going to trigger something in you, whether you love them with all of your might or not. And then that's why it's so important to really love a person that you marry. Because when you truly do love a person and you truly feel that portion of you completely fulfilled, where you would take a bullet for that person, and that's really, really, really difficult to find. That's what's going to make you stay during all the hard times, because the hard times will be there. It's inevitable.
Right. And I think to your point earlier, if like one's evolving, what's not. That's what my friend said. She's like, when she encountered couples, one was at a different space in their life, right? Like they were doing things and the other one didn't get it, or she was like giving me advice, and I was like, that's true, because I've evolved in this way, right? And so does my current spouse, at the time partner, is he okay with that evolution? If not, this is not going to work out.
At least, you know what, if you're not understanding exactly what I'm doing, at least support me.
Yes.
And let's take it from there, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be opposed to it, this is never going to work out.
Right.
And that's what happens with so many marriages. It really is. I believe that from the bottom of my heart, you need to truly marry for love, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Love. People marry for other conveniences, to not be alone.
Political marriage, arranged marriages,
whatever it may be. And you know what? And they may stay together, right? Because it just makes sense, and one is sleeping in one bedroom and the other one in the other. And no, you need to be able to deal with the bullshit. You need to be able to say, you know what, you're wrong or I'm wrong, but I love you, and I'm going to stick here and I'm going to fight for it because you mean the world to me, and I don't want to be without you.
Yeah.
And if you do get to that point in life, which you're very fortunate that you found that with your husband, you have to fight for that marriage, because trust me, girlfriend, you're going to have your rough patches.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think that, this is why, when, to your point earlier, you're going to be with this person 24/7, right? And so they're going to see every part of your being, and you have to be okay with that.
They're going to see your defects. They're going to see your beauty.
Yeah.
All of the beautiful qualities that they first met in you, right? When you first started in the courting phase, where everybody's like behaving.
Yeah.
But you know what? Something's going to trigger you one day where you're going to turn into a human being.
Or vice versa, right?
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm using the example with you now. But correct, or vice versa.
Yeah.
They're having a bad day, a trauma that they have from their childhood or from a previous life. And something is going to trigger it. And at that point, you're going to say, or you're going to learn how to adapt to each other and say, let me walk away today, because right now, emotionally, we're not compatible, and we're just going to get into a bigger fight, and let's address the issue tomorrow morning, or whatever tactic it is that you guys use to work with your issues,
And I think now there's this huge movement of people saying you're married, but you have like, it's an open marriage. I know that's like something going on now where people, and
where you can date other people.
Yeah, but you're married to one, and I can't speak from that experience. I do have friends who practice polyamory relationships, and that's totally fine. I'm for that.
I had a podcast with where I learned this terminology, throuples. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, I have a friend who's in a throuple. Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So that's like, I don't know if it's a marriage, but it's like it's like a relationship.
It's a relationship.
I'm married and I bring you in, but you're like,
I'm dating both of you.
You're dating both of you.
Like, yeah.
We are all three of us are now in a relationship. And a partnership.
Yeah.
And
it works for some people, honestly, and good for them. But I'm just like, that's a lot of communication.
I don't know. I just think it's a lot of personality with it.
That communication.
A lot of emotional personalities.
And good for them. Like, I wish them the best of luck.
I have a hard time with one person. I have to deal with two now.
Or maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, no, that's not for me. Like, listen, and anybody that wants to do that I associate with, personally on a friendship level, I have yet to meet them, or they haven't admitted it to me yet. Hey, that's your life. You do whatever you want in the bedroom. For me personally, that's just not something that I believe in. I just think that I believe in that monogamy between a man and a woman. I do believe that that's important. I believe that shows that you really love each other. I think that that's a lot of respect, mutual respect for one another. Yeah. And just sticking to each other,
Same.
It's very easy to be in a relationship with you and I get in a fight with you and then I'm going to go see, my boyfriend, our boyfriends, because you're getting on my nerves. No. That's like a coping mechanism, like an escape that we're looking for.
But for some people, it's a real life to have multiple partners. And for them, it works out. I have a really good friend who is in that. They are engaged, and their partner is not poly, but they are. So, it works out for them. It's just communication, trust, and honesty, and I do see it work. But
if you're comfortable with it, again,
yeah,
if you're comfortable,
and that's
power to you.
Yeah. But for me, I don't think that's my route, and that's okay. But I support anyone that wants to do it, as long as it's consensual and open and honest. It's consensual. It's not it. Yeah.
And you're okay with it, then hey,
go for it. But I think that's the trend right now, from what I've read.
Listen, I've been on a couple of dating apps.
Have you? Has any of the dudes been like poly?
Well, what I've seen a lot is. Like couples, I guess, right? That's what you would call it.
A unicorn? A unicorn?
Yeah, like unicorn. That's the word. That's exactly.
I was actually on Bumble because I asked for consent from my husband. Hey, I need to make friends. I hired Bumble. Has an option, like BFF. Yep. Right. So I did BFF, and apparently there was like people there who were also looking for a unicorn. I'm like, I hit the option for friendship, but.
So what does unicorn mean? Like
an extra.
Polyamorous.
So it depends on each person, but from what I got solicited was like, oh, me and my husband are looking for a third girl to hook up with.
Correct.
Which I'm like, I'm like, no.
And let me tell you that they're very attractive couples.
They are.
They're very attractive couples. It's not like you're looking at them and they're like, they're dogs. And they appear to have their act together.
Yeah.
At least by the pictures that they're posting, where they may be like financially stable, live nice lives.
What are you seeing in Miami? This is what you're seeing in the Bumble BFFs.
No, the app that I was on.
The apps
was Facebook. The Facebook app.
There's a Facebook dating app.
Yes, and I love it because.
Oh my God.
The reason why I like that one, because I don't like dating apps. Mm-hmm. I find it very disturbing. It's just with my lifestyle as a parent, and I work, and I don't go out a lot. I just it's not who I am, right? Like one of my New Year's resolution goals is that I want to start going out more, at least once a week, right?
That's a good goal.
Yeah. And kind of force myself to do it because I am as happy as can be doing a podcast in my house, reading a book, just surfing the internet, watching a movie. Like, I'm happy in my domain, like I'm in my happy place here.
I love that.
But yeah, the Facebook app, what it offers is that you can see mutual friends that you may have in common.
Oh my God.
By seeing like, and it may be like very
so great. That's so great.
Fourth kind of generational friends that you have in common with this person, but I think that that's an easier way to kind of like dissect or put a story together in your mind of a person that you absolutely have no background information on.
Yeah.
Right? Because all you're getting is a first name, whatever pictures they post, and whatever bio they want to say about themselves, which can all be bullshit. So my personal experience with dating apps has not been positive. I haven't really met anything where it's obviously worked out. I'm still single. So I think I'm gonna like digress back to like to old school kind of like societal values where it's, let me see if I meet him at Publix, when I'm out there grocery shopping. But I don't want to do it in the area where I live in. I want to maybe go a little further north because I'm looking for like a gringo. Like I I want a white boy. Yeah, I'm trying to stay away from Hispanics right now. Like, I'm done. I'm done with the Hispanic culture.
I think because you're in Miami, there's a certain group here,
It's so
but
hard.
but you never know who you find in life. But I do agree with you. Organic situations like that make it easier to start a conversation. But the apps are so questionable. Like,
You know what? It's just the way that we're living today. Everything is so easily accessible,
and sometimes these people on the apps, like one of my guy friends, he has a dating app, and he pays for the additional fee where he can put his location anywhere around the world. So he can put, like, I'm in London, because he might be traveling to London the next month. So he can hit up people. I'm just like, that's too much dedication. But good for you.
You know what's the good thing about the app? And again, because for me, it's just not the lifestyle that I'm used to. And I'm kind of old school when it comes to like those traditional like meeting. Kind of like, I've never had to go. I feel like you're looking. Like you're out there, like, kind of like, let me put an ad in the newspaper in the Miami Herald that I'm looking for a boyfriend, I'm searching for a husband.
Why don't you do that? Or you can go, there's also the Craigslist, like, random encounters. Have you seen, I'm just kidding, don't do that.
I'm not doing that.
No.
Like, that's just like, you know what, no.
I wonder if anybody has done that, though.
I'm sure they have. I've seen those ads before.
I would want to talk to them, be like, how did you get here?
You know what? You never. But okay, but in the dating apps, that's what they have.
Yeah.
It's so funny because every podcast I like always falls into the dating apps.
These are the times.
You find a man that you find attractive on a dating app, and I think that this applies more to the. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking too much here, but I think this might apply more to a male than to a female. But a man can go and they can meet me right now on a dating app, and they can be like, okay, she's an attractive woman. I'm very like minimal and everything that I write in my bio. I don't write a lot. I'll put like 2 pictures, very conservative pictures. I'm not putting pictures in a bikini or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm not about that. And then if we connect, we can talk a little bit, right? We talk on the text app, whatever, and then right away they're asking you for your phone number. And then you decide at that point whether you want to give them your phone number or not. At that point, you can really research a person and see who they are, right?
Yeah.
Just by their phone number. But the guy could talk to you for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, he goes incognito for a couple of days because he's going back to the app to see if he finds something a little bit better than you, right? And when he finds something better than you that he realizes that it really isn't better than you because she's actually like a nut job or not, right? Like whatever the problem may be, they come back to you a week later. When they come back to you, you're done because you're already like turned off by the situation because it's like, where did you go? Like you were talking to me for so long and you were texting, you were blowing up my phone for 2 days and then you just stopped.
The ghosting is a real thing.
The ghosting is a real thing. It's a real phenomenon that's happening right now.
The apps.
With dating apps. It's kind of like...
Or you can pay for a matchmaker. I heard that's like a huge thing right now.
Well, I've seen a movie about that. Like I saw a movie, I've seen like 2 movies on that, right? Where you pay for a matchmaker and then they have, you know...
They say you have clientele and
and they have like different categories, right? Like what are you looking for? Are you looking for a millionaire match? And then, you know, that person is... Because listen, the millionaire, if that's what you're looking for, what time does that man really have to dedicate to a relationship?
That's a great question. That's why they hire people like
Right,
that. Or they,
because you're working all the time. So at that point, it's like, how are you going to find a quality female, a quality mate for yourself? What it is that you're into? Right?
Yeah. I don't know. That's why there's matchmaking services. But I'd be curious to see how they are in the U.S.
You just opened up
a can of weird thing. Yeah.
That I might research a little bit further. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think one of them is because I've been watching some Korean dramas on Netflix. And there was this one about a matchmaking service. And I'm like, that's huge in a lot of countries outside the U.S.
Is it?
Yes, especially in Southeast Asia. But I'm just so curious, like, what type of matchmaking service do you want? Like, is there like super millionaires so you can match with a millionaire? Is there one for like how, I don't know how it's like.
I would love to find out, like, what does that cost? Like, is that like an expensive service? I would think that that's like a coaching, right? Like, people that hire personal coaches, it's kind of the same concept.
Maybe, but I don't know how much that is, but I'm curious for you to investigate this.
OMG.
Like, you go on a matchmaking day. I'm curious what that is like. I don't know. Do they have like a list of super fancy members for you and you show up to these parties to
Whatever it
mingle?
is,
Yeah.
well, I just think that anybody that would subscribe to this type of a service
Yeah.
would have to be at a certain like
Caliber.
caliber
Yeah.
in order to be able to sustain kind of like
Mm-hmm.
that financial burden that it's going to bring or not, right? Like,
Yeah.
right, the reward, right?
Yeah.
Risk versus
Reward. It's so true, but you bring up a good point for those people that do want a relationship, that don't have the time to date. They have these agencies to do that work for you. So if you would go to them and say, oh, you know, I'm Monica, you know, this is like, I'm a daughter, I have this and this is what I'm looking
Yeah.
for. I'm sure they would be like, okay, like this is our fee. We can set you up with these 5 guys. What do you think?
I love the idea.
Yeah.
I do. I really like that idea. I think that that's a lot better than getting on these dating apps that all you're meeting
Is interesting characters.
no, it's just, you know, and a lot of the people that are on these dating apps are just there because they just want to hook up and have sex with you. You know,
Yeah.
that's what they're looking for. They're just looking to kind of like, you know, let me see who's the next person that I can sleep with. And if you're into that, that's
Great.
perfect, right? Like have fun with it. You know, but I think that if you're, and again, and then you meet people that they've gone on like the worst ones, which they say that it's like Tinder. Tinder's supposed to be like the hooking up app, you know? And they've actually gone on Tinder and they meet the love of their life and they get married.
I
and
have
they-
heard of one of my friends did do that. I met his
my
wife.
cousin
Yeah.
did it. My cousin is super happy with her boyfriend. They've been together for like 3 years. He's an amazing man, super successful. They're super happy together.
Yeah.
You know, she met him on Tinder, you know?
And I think now it's the time to be like, should we be moving out of the dating apps and paying for a more like successful service where I'm guaranteed that?
I love what you're bringing up. I do. You know that this is something that I have never thought about.
I think you should
or
explore
even
it.
Considered. I'm not saying that I will yet, but it's definitely provoking a thought in me. Where I want to research it a little bit further.
Yeah.
And I think that you do have to invest in your future and
Yeah.
shoot, if it's, you know, why not? What do we have to lose?
You don't
right?
have to lose anything for folks that don't have the time and you want to do it. Go for it.
Yeah.
If the apps ain't working for you, maybe it's time for you to invest in a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I'm still, like I said, I'm still
You're
working on
exploring.
myself.
Yeah.
I'm still, and you saw it when we were talking
Yeah,
in the car,
yeah.
you know? Like, I'm still learning, I'm still exploring, I'm still figuring out a lot about me at my age.
I love that for
I
you.
feel that I should have learned a lot sooner. And for whatever reason I didn't. It's taken me a lot longer. Maybe I'm a little slow. I don't know what the case may be, but I was very kind of closed and programmed to not seeing certain things. And I still don't know the direction that I want to head in, but I know that I don't want to stay where I'm at.
I love that. I think you just coming to that self-actualization moment of being like, I need to self-explore. I'm kind of stuck here. That takes a lot of strength and power to
It's
come.
hard.
It's hard work.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
energy. It's very depleting at times.
And you take it at your own pace.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you're in this self-exploration
Yeah,
phase.
absolutely.
And I think that's great. And I commend you for that because, you know, you're in your golden era, right?
Yeah.
Like I can definitely see you in this matchmaking service. Like, dating a papi chulo with a yacht. I'm manifesting that for you.
OMG,
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
Like a yacht and just, you know, hot stepmom alert. I definitely see hot stepmom. I don't know
Yeah.
why I see that. Like, I definitely see hot stepmom in the
Yeah?
yacht. Yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling it. I like that idea. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hit the gym in January. I'm doing
We
it.
all are.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, I'm like the opposite. I'm definitely more of an old soul. That's what I've heard.
I feel that I
Yeah.
am too. I feel that I'm
Yeah.
a very old soul. I think that I'm very old school. I think that I'm very traditional, even though I may not project that
Yeah.
with you know, the way that I speak or project myself at times. But I am very kind of like traditional in my values, and I believe in family, I believe in love, I believe in children, I believe in, you know, being a stepmother, you know, to somebody else's children. I welcome that with open arms. I have no problem with that.
You can
at all.
I can definitely see that, like hot papi chulo with the hot stepmom. Oh yeah, I'll definitely see in the next Christmas event, like with that.
Uh-oh, we're gonna talk about this in future episodes. With
If
you
this
and
does
Pete.
happen, I would be called it.
Girlfriend. At this point, then we're gonna start some retreats in Peru. we're just gonna get a following right now. We're gonna start a page.
Monica's where
I'm like, thanks to her guidance, I was able to reach this level of success with my puppy Chula.
in the yachts in Miami.
How funny. But anyway, Gladys, thank you so much. This was such a fun and entertaining conversation. I love speaking to people that are open and comfortable with talking about spirituality, because I know that this is just not kind of like a comfort zone for a lot of people. Even though everybody thinks it, I don't care who you are, everybody thinks it, everybody feels it, everybody wants to talk about it, but they're afraid of the judgment and what people are going to think and if they're going to sound crazy. You know, it's like I told my daughter, when I was really feeling down, I went and I would hug trees.
Oh, my mom and I do that too.
And it helped me
feel
better.
I love hugging trees. It's great.
It helped me feel. So I didn't hug the tree completely because I was still a little bit like, oh my God, people are going to think I'm a nut job. But I actually grabbed it, and I still do it to today. There's one tree in particular that I go to, and I just stand there and I just touch the tree, and I think
that's
the
great.
universe for everything, and I ask for the tree's presence. Give me your presence, give me your wisdom, give me your love, give me your energy, give me your strength. Everything that a tree, because a tree's been around for thousands and thousands of years, right?
They're still hardy and strong.
And you're still rocking it.
Yeah.
So I want what you have. You know, give that to me while I'm still here, you know, in this body. Like, give me what you have so that I can, so that I'm able to deal with all the punches that we're constantly getting.
And also, definitely remember that you've accomplished a lot in the past 5 years. Don't forget to also celebrate your successes. And
you know, but it's hard because I think, and that's interesting that you bring
that's
that up
a mentality change too. But let's remove buts and also think about like.
But it's so funny because you're right, because we are so judgmental. You know, we're so quick to say, oh my God, Gladys is so awesome. Gladys is so fantastic. She's so intelligent. She's so spiritual. You know what? Why can't I do that for myself? Why can't I say all those accolades about myself?
Because
why can't I speak high about myself? Why do I always have to downgrade me and talk down about myself?
Because that's how society has conditioned women.
Thank you.
So maybe you should start, you know, new goals. Like, be kinder to yourself. Yeah. Like, I'm a hot mamacita today. Like, do it. I can see this hot stepmom alert. I'm really manifesting that for you.
Oh my God, I love it. Keep it.
Hot stepmom alert.
I welcome it.
I would definitely see you in the Facebooks with my man and like Sydney and the stepkids. I could definitely see that for you.
I would welcome that with open arms. God knows that I'm really manifesting that for myself, and I'm having a really hard time achieving it. But anyway, you know, I would love to repeat this.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the next time we do this podcast in Salem, Massachusetts.
Yeah, you're welcome to visit.
Yeah.
And you can definitely share with like your viewers like how it is during spooky season because it's crazy.
I love that. My daughter would love that because she loves anything kind of like spooky and horror movies and.
Oh, it gets spooky and crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could imagine. How long have you lived there already?
I've been there we bought a condo there like 4 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty long time.
Yeah. So I've gotten used to it, but definitely during spooky season, it's the best. And people all around the world come for it. Yeah. It's a witch city.
Oh, how exciting.
I know.
So anything that you want to, you know, close the podcast with and share with us? Like anything, you know.
Some palabras.
Yeah.
Unas palabras.
De Gladys.
I definitely want to say to everyone that be kinder to yourself and always celebrate your successes and don't be afraid to do what you need to do for yourself.
Right.
Don't be afraid. It's
don't
hard.
Don't be afraid, right? Don't be afraid of judgment. Don't be afraid of what
Apply for that job even if you're underqualified because you never.
Start the podcast even if you don't know what the hell you're doing.
You know, like
figure it out as you go.
Life is too short to be like, well, if I could do just
you're
do.
So right, Gladys. You're so right.
Because then I'm gonna be like miserable and anxious. No, like I have things to do. Like I've always manifested that I would live abroad, and it has happened. Like you can do that for yourself. Just be kinder and celebrate the wins too.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been an awesome
It's been great.
episode. I can't wait to post it. Thank you guys all for following the podcast. You could really, really help with amazing guests like Gladys. If you subscribe,
Yeah.
like the episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel, it really helps with the algorithm and just getting a lot more viewers.
And comment.
Share your experiences with us. You know, your spiritual experiences, your dating experiences, anything that you can relate from this show, that you can help anybody else grow. That's the purpose of this podcast. Anybody else that can relate to it, even if it's one person that we're helping, and it's one person that's making the world a better place.
Facts.
And that's the way that I see this.
That's right.
So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Thanks again.
Thank you all.